Welcome, everyone. My guest tonight is Roger Brown. You may have seen him around. So, Roger, what did you do before YouTube?
Well, before YouTube, I was trying to get my life together. Now, unfortunately, in 2015, on November 18th in the afternoon, I started having seizures for no reason.
And
It was a good day.
How old were
There
you
was
when they started?
Well, I've been 7 years ago, and I'm 55 now, so I'd have been at 48 years old.
Okay. So this is something that you've had to adjust to, not recently, but in the present.
Oh yeah, because before I could, I had the world by the balls proverbially. I only had to work a few days a week, and that was about it. I mean, just odd jobs mainly, bumming around here because people don't like to do work. I just had to be up every day, get in my Jeep, and go down to town. And then once after a while, anyone knew that if they had a job that needed done, that I would do it right then.
Mm-hmm. So what kind of work would you usually do?
Anything. I mean, YouTube does not know my full potentials of skill. Now, we want to talk about my history. Now, let's talk about my work history. My first job, I worked at Lighting Systems Incorporated as a fabricator. So, I had to actually fabricate the pieces to build the housings for the lighting.
It sounds interesting.
And then from there, they moved me into the welding shop. And I wasn't a welder because at the time, I was just 18 years old. So, they don't let you do that at just 18. But, in there, I didn't do it, but I did learn how welding was done there. And then I went on to bigger and better things. Unemployment, because that was not worth $3.35 an hour in that acid pits where I worked back there in the welding shop. I cleaned all of the metal after they were done. I mean, it would literally just eat your shirt away by the end of the day.
Yeah, that sounds kind of dangerous.
Well, it's the typical, where you worked, the concrete under you was like sludge. Because of all the acid going on it from day to day, it kind of turned the concrete kind of into a muddy pool. And this was the chemical you were working with. But, when you start factories, you get some of the worst jobs imaginable. And the reason why I got that one is because, the big giant light poles like at gas stations on the interstate, the really big ones.
Yes.
We made those. And that was a part of my job. And after I was done cleaning them and prepping them for painting, you had to get another guy over there, and then you had to hoist those poles onto two big giant hooks. And then you push them on a line that would send them to a painting area. So this was why I had to do this job, because they had to have somebody that could lift the end of that giant pole, get it up to chest level, and put it on a hook. So that was my job there. Like I said, I usually did shitty and dirty jobs. Now, one of the method behind that is because that gives you leverage. Because what's he going to say? I was like, well, you pay me $3.35 an hour, because that's how much I got then, was $3.35 an hour. And, you look at him, it's like, you could do this. I could go home right now and, go get a fast food job and not have to do this anymore for the same price. Now, of course, I wasn't going to tell him I wasn't never going to get a fast food job. I'd go get another factory job. But, when you put that to him like that, it gives you a little leeway with the boss.
Indeed. And depending on where you're working, there might be a shortage of labor. And the shortage of labor means the laborers have more power.
Well, no, in reality, there's a shortage of people that will labor. See, that's the secret in the factory. You have labor all around you, But who will labor? That is always the question. It's kind of like the philosopher. Most philosophers really don't philosophize very well because we've never heard of them.
Mm-hmm. It's true. That is true. There have been many philosophers throughout history, and only like a handful are actually taught in schools.
Yep, and all the rest of them were just guys just spouting shit. And I can do that without a degree.
And we don't know who the true philosophers are until after we're dead.
Probably not even then. I mean, not even they know. I mean, if anyone was a serious philosopher, they would know not to take themselves seriously. So, so it's kind of like the dragon with the tail in the mouth.
Did you?
It's just eating itself.
Yeah. Did you happen to work anywhere else before you officially had your seizures and could no longer work?
Oh, I worked a lot of jobs. Now, I worked at Ral Partha. Now, they made the figurines for Dungeons and Dragons in Dungeons and Dragons heyday. And I was a caster. And, oh my God, that job was hot. In the summer, you could not imagine any place being hotter because you're standing next to molten metal all day. And with basic work gloves, you're grabbing a ladle full of metal and putting it into a machine about every 90 seconds or so. You're putting another scoop of hot metal in there. And now this is something you don't know. Now, once again, when you're melting down this metal, you're just sitting there minding your own business. But if fate has put an air bubble in that bar, it's going to explode. And molten metal will go zing out of that smelter, and it will be flying right in your work area. So that's one reason why when you try to put lead or any other metal in your smelter right before you go on break. And that was kind of a safety thing. Now, once again, you don't always get to pick your winsies and waddies when you're doing work like that. And sometimes it happens. Now, one of the funniest things I did, I worked with a fellow named Bill. Tall man, had a handlebar mustache. I mean, one of the classic Old West ones. And we were sitting there and just bullshitting back table to table because we had our ways. And it just, what had that happened, you just heard Pope. And then you looked over at him and the entire front of his jeans was covered in molten metal. I mean, just like you. And it was lead, so it cooled down quickly. Now, the look on his face was something I will never forget. I mean, his eyes was about that big around. And he basically, it ended up he just got a sunburn.
Lucky.
But it was because it was lead. Lead cools down really quick. Now, had it been another metal other than lead, it would have been bad. He would have got blisters all over there. But because it was lead, you get to laugh and go home later. So, but that's how I learned to work with metals, because that's where I say, I have a lot of side skills. That's where I can put my own invention. It's like around here, because I was a fabricator, I can build the shell to put something in. And in reality, because of my casting, I could probably build the shell from metal itself if I had it. I'd have to build my own smelter. Now I'd have to harvest my own charcoal because I'd have to get it hot enough and it would require charcoal. So, once again, that would be a pain in the ass. But my grandfather on my father's side was a blacksmith. So as a little guy, I kind of did watch and got to see some old-fashioned blacksmithing. And I could do it. I could make small metal things or, what I basically need. If you gave me a primitive metal part, I could make something like that for you. but of course it would require me making charcoal.
Mm-hmm. So
Go ahead.
You go ahead. Finish what you were saying.
No, it was irrelevant thought.
Okay. So you work all these jobs, you gather these skills, and eventually you do purchase your own farm.
Yep.
And you take all these skills with you to that farm. Now,
yeah,
that happened when you were young, right? Fairly young.
Oh, yeah. I mean, these jobs were fairly early, and the one that I worked before I came down here, I worked at Avon Products in Springdale, Ohio, and we made perfume. And I was an assembler on lines, and we worked from 80 to 120 pieces a minute. And we worked in teams of 2. And I could do it all by myself because I have an abnormal manual dexterity.
Wow.
They gave us what was called the Gatsby test in the 1970s. I'm sure they don't even do it anymore, but a part of it was a manual dexterity test. And I, the only creature that scored perfect on it, and I got it done in about half the time. And that was my first clue that I was a bit different than the other kids, because after I got done with the puzzle, I looked up and, I mean, the other kids weren't even a third of the way through it.
Yep, that's an experience I can relate to.
And then I was kind of worried that, because at that point, I think it was 3rd grade, I'd already understood that different is not good. Mm. And I also know from the 1970s that society will persecute different.
That is true.
So as a child, that gave me a incentive to kind of keep things about me to me.
Mm-hmm.
After all, I couldn't trust my parents.
Yes. So you became a very, like you said, you lived out on this farm. You became very introspective. Not to say like you were closed off, but you were essentially out on your own for long periods of time, even young, right?
Actually, as a child, I was alone all the time. I mean, my parents started leaving on month and a half when I was about 12. My dad would just fill out a couple checks to the electric company. And, at 12 years old, I could do it. Now, at 6th grade, when they tested me, I read 3rd year college. So at 6th grade, I basically read junior in college level. So, filling out a check wasn't no problem. And the mother finally got me a cat. I mean, our first pet. Now, my haters on YouTube even said that I killed the family dog. I mean, we never had a dog. My first thought was, what was my dog's name? I mean, if I'm this evil and I killed my dog, I'd kind of at least like to know what my dog's name was. We had a cat. It was a Manx like Summer. And oh my God, it was a mean creature. I mean, it would eat you up. And we got that when I turned about 12, 13. And she lived until 2001. I had lived here 5 years at this place before that cat passed on. So, I had long moved out before my childhood pet even passed. So they can't even say that, hey, killed the kitty. Now, my kitty would have killed you. One of my funniest moments in my life that I am so proud of. You know how every father gets that special chair they want? Mm-hmm. They delivered my father's a giant recliner. And you know how the father steps back and admires it? He stepped back and he admired it. And my cat jumped right up in that recliner instantly and laid down like she had been there 3 hours. And he said, Roger, get your damn cat. Roger looked at him like this and said, good luck with that. And I walked out the door. Said, I'll just make some pot and laugh because his recliner's sitting there and he won't dare pick that cat up because she'll eat him up. Mm-hmm. And he'll have to wait in to sit in that one when that cat is done. And I'm sure my mother did the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you tried to disturb her from what she considered this is my spot, she'd eat you alive.
So your love of cats began young then, because the cats are a featured part of your channel now.
Well, that was my only cat.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get to have a pet as a kid. Like I said, when I hit about a teenager, I guess it was almost 13. Thinking about it, in the dates and the times my parents left, I'd have been 12 getting ready to turn 13 when I got my first pet because my dad always wanted to travel.
Mm-hmm.
And I got drug along with it. And that's why people like Rich say, you're jealous because I get to travel. I fucking hate traveling. I mean, I despise it. It's the reason I don't want to travel.
Mm-hmm. So at this point, like you've got all these skills, you're on the farm. When do you actually meet the cats that you have currently?
That's a story. Now, actually, when I moved down here, October 8th of 1996, I got my first cats. Now, once again, my mother kept the household pet because that was really the family pet. I had no pet up to that point. And then I got Aries and Athena. And Aries, he was a funny kitty and took him about 5 years to warm up to me.
Wow.
And Athena was always my little buddy. And then a cousin Regina dropped 2 cats off on me, Tiger and Panther, the original Tiger.
So you have you have cats with the same names, right? But the third or the fourth.
Yeah, there's a couple that did repeat. Like Tiger and Elric are repeat names.
Okay.
Now, what happened was Laylee next, because I opened the door one day and an orange kitten ran in and it attacked Tiger. And it was funny because Tiger was an idiot. I mean, why I am so patient with cats is because of Tiger. I mean, man, that cat was a menace. I mean, you couldn't walk for him. You couldn't eat for him. He'd knock you over, constantly under your feet, never learn his lesson once. I mean, the cat was a problem. And he lived out his days and well enough, but until the day he died, that cat was a problem. Now, once again, I said, I remember now, I always used to tell her when he's a cat with a glitch.
A glitch.
Yep. He was a cat with a glitch. And like I said, I loved him. Now, Laylee and him loved each other to death. I've got a picture of them in the other room I'll show sometime together. Now, Laylee did look a little bit like Summer, except much, much bigger. Now, Shimmer's laying over here on the chair asleep next to me. And I put Richella out because I figured Richella would not be good for this.
Yes, that's the one that's so
demanding.
Baby. Summer's baby that's always with you whenever you're live, right?
Yeah. I put her in the other room just for this because she would be in my face right now in a problem. Now, those were my original cats. Now, once again, those are my kitties forever. And all of them were fixed. And then I had to become a caregiver. Mm-hmm. And that sucked. And then that happened over a decade. So most of my life of those animals, I was a caregiver.
Right. So your mom was on the farm with you, right?
No. She lived down the street. Oh. I got to go home for about 3 to 4 hours a day. Wow. And I'd take care of the animals and I'd sleep 3 hours or 4 hours. Now, if I got a bath, I slept 3 hours. So I'd sleep like 4 hours one night, 3 hours the next. And then a cousin would play on my World of Warcraft account on Saturdays, and I'd sleep in the floor, and he'd wake me up when my mother would want something. And that went on over a decade. And that's how I started playing World of Warcraft. And then my cats were already passing on. Aries and, Athena passed on in like 2008, and Aries passed on a month and a day after my mother. And that was very difficult because, he was my best little bud. And, within a month and a day, he passed on when my mother passed on. And that was 2011. Now, Tiger was pretty decrepit at that time. You could see where it looked like he might have had a stroke and recovered because he had lost so much weight. But, other than that, he was fine. But you could tell something was wrong with him. Mm-hmm. And there was also, as I mentioned, Panther there. And he was the alpha at the time because, Tiger was out of his prime and Aries had already passed on. Well, my cousin Regina that dropped those two cats off on me ages before, she had two kittens. One of them was the original Elric and his sister Venus. She was black and white and looked like Sissy, who passed on recently. Mm-hmm. And that was the mother. And Elric was solid black. And he looks like current Elric, except he was solid black. And remember I told you Laylee just ran in one day? Well, after I had them about 5 weeks, I had another run in. And I named this one Beauty. And she was a wild feral, and she was a Manx. And I was getting them both fixed. I put Elric up. And I used to call him Ninja Dick because somehow he nailed both of them. And then I had 11 kittens within 4 days. Wow. And that's how I got the cats.
And all of this has happened just shortly after your mother had passed?
Yep.
Okay.
Within a couple years.
Okay. So we go from there. You've got the cats that you have now, and then the seizures start. Is that the time?
Well, actually, I was starting to work again, and I was looking for a regular job. In fact, many of my friends got a job at the chicken plant, and had I not had seizures, I probably would be at a chicken processing plant working.
So the same style of jobs.
Yeah.
While also doing your farm stuff, because you also said you sell hay.
Well, it's not enough to even worry about saying I sell hay, but it's a supplement. Now, once again, the hay in reality for about the next decade need to go back into the farm to fix things, like the barn. The barn's worth about $20,000, but it probably needs about $2,500 worth of work. Now, that will all have to come out of the hay. Then my drive is 0.2 miles long. So, my drive is 1/5 of a mile long, and that's going to need new rock on it. So, once again, the farm basically mostly breaks even.
Mm-hmm. So, so the seizures start while you're still trying to look for work. It prevents you from going to the chicken processing plant. And where do we go from there? Like, what happened in between the seizure starting and your YouTube channel? Are you at least starting as a viewer on YouTube?
Well, actually, that's bad because, see, at that time, I was under this impression about the world that it was different than it is. And once again, I didn't know what was wrong at the time, and it got bad. I mean, you wouldn't imagine it. I was completely non-functional. And I hit my head a bunch of times because, like now, I learned, don't worry about it. It'll be there later. But, back then, you didn't. This has to get done. And I hurt myself quite a few times, and eventually I ended up having to move into the barn because I could no longer maintain my house. And rather than wreck the house, I ended up just going ahead and moving into the barn loft. And I lived in that barn for 2 years. Now, I constantly had promises of help. They never came through. I mean, constantly I was thinking, I'm saved or I'm helped. And then I got ghosted. And that's typically how it would be. People would say things, and let's just say Christians weren't very Christian. Or someone will say, my church will help you. Over that 2-year period, I got 18 promises of help from church people. And I got rejected from help for 18. And that's when I realized that the meth moms take all the services. That's when I discovered that. You know, those 2 years when I was literally starving. I mean, I got to look like Eugenia Cooney with muscles. You know, I was literally dying. And I was going around picking up cans to feed my animals. And for 2 years, I did that. I picked up cans and it came to $1 an hour. And for 2 years, that's how I fed my cats. Many days I starved. Many weeks I starved, but the animals ate. But that's the only income I could generate at that time, was picking up cans on the side of the road for $1 an hour.
So you at this point, like, was your condition at this point as bad as it had ever been? You didn't really have.
Oh yeah, I mean, every time. I mean, let me remember. One of my early memories that shocked me is this was the first month I had seizures. My car broke down. This was before I stopped driving completely. So this was New Year's Day, 2016. My car had broke down. I was walking to a phone so I could get my car towed to get worked on. I started having a seizure right there in the road. I mean, right there. You know, my brain, you understand most of the time what's going on around you. You just can't interact. Car came up on me within 3 feet of me. Thought he was going to hit me. And you know what they did? They honked. Then they honked again. Then they just drove around me. Then the next 2 cars drove around me too. Left me laying there in the road.
Wow.
No one called for any help.
But that kind of experience certainly jades you to the world.
Oh, yeah. And there's also someone here that's tried to run over me when I'm carrying everything on the road a few times. And I've also told the sheriff of Rockcastle County that, well, since you're not going to do anything about it, you know, I'm going to carry an arm. And the next time they try to do that, well, it is what it is. What would your deputy do if someone was trying to run you down? That's what I'm going to do, sir.
Oh, and Kanish says hello.
Hello, Kanish.
And if anyone in the chat has any questions as we're going along, you are free to ask them. So at this point, like, your conditions, that's the worst it's ever been. Now, how did you eventually get that fixed, and how it led you to YouTube?
Well, eventually, you know, I tried to go to the doctor for my seizures because, you see, I couldn't go to the doctor at any time because I didn't have any medical way to do it. Now, through someone at the food stamp office, they actually hooked me up to where I could get seen by a doctor. Now, the funny thing is, I go to the doctor. I'm having seizures. This was in Somerset. And then he tells me, I can't treat you. And after 2 years, I'm reaching out my hand to grab him because I was going to slam him against the wall really hard because that was not what I wanted to hear. And once again, because of how everything had been, it had been pretty unreal. And a doctor telling me at that time that he couldn't help me. You know, one hand was reaching out to grab a hold of him and catapult him into the wall at high speed. And then another ego state said, why? You know, because there's one ego state that always wants to know why something is this way. And in the feral ego state at the time was just content to wipe the floor with this guy, doctor or not. Just say. Now, he said, because you haven't been to the emergency room yet. Then my hand pulled back kind of like this and held here. And then there's that part of me, it's like, why don't we just wipe the floor with him anyway? Then there's that part of me that says, this will not get us anywhere. It's like, I guess you're right, but I really, really want to do this. And then that part of me says, let's go to the emergency room, considering we are in the same building.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, we'll do that. Then I just said, I don't need you. That's what I told him right there. And I never went back to that doctor, and I never went to the office, because after I went through all the medical tests, it was kind of weird. It's like, well, I went to the emergency room. It was like, why are you here? It's like, well, I have seizures, and the doctor told me that unless I come here to the emergency room, he can't treat me. And once again, that felt pretty stupid saying, but that is what I had to tell the nursey. What is your reason for your visit today? Then that part of me that wanted to wipe the doctor, it's edited in my head, and it wanted to say, because you're stupid. That was my first impulse on, why are you here today? Because you were stupid. But that would not have got me anywhere. So once again, I said the embarrassing reality of it all, that the medical community is a morons.
Mm-hmm.
And that set me on my way. And then I got referred to a clinic, and after the emergency room, and then they hooked me up with a neurologist. And then that neurologist hooked me up with another neurologist, and I got to spend 3 days in the hospital with a little cap on my head, and they got some good food in that hospital. Now, the normal hospital slop food? I didn't get that. I always had a theory that the people at the hospital were eating better food, the people that work there. And I was right, because they had a second menu at this hospital, a special menu. And once again, I looked like Eugenia Cooney with muscles. I had absolutely no extra body fat on me anywhere on my body. I looked like a perfect Greek specimen.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to eat whatever I wanted. So I went from starving to, I had 3 days in the hospital that, like I said, I got to eat whatever I wanted, and good food. It was restaurant quality.
So this is where you actually started to recover.
No, I've never quite recovered. Matter of fact, the only thing that actually gives me any form of recovery is the smoking of the marijuana medicinally.
Yes.
Without that, my condition completely degenerates over time.
I was about to get to that part, actually. So you're fed at this point. Now, when did you discover that it was the marijuana that would help you with your condition, that allowed you to be functional?
Well, because the McCoys. Now, there is a girl that the McCoys knows. I'm not going to say her name. She's pretty. Now, she has seizures. And she had seizures since she was 11. And in a heart-to-heart talk, she said, it really helps me, because I had stopped smoking pot for about 9 years up to that point. And then I started smoking some with the McCoys, and my condition started to improve. And it did seem the more that I got in me, the more my condition improved, to where now it's manageable. But without it, my condition will degenerate.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately. Now, they tried to put me on Seroquel. Before we went with the marijuana option, yes, they sent me to a psychiatrist that was nothing more than a prescription mill. And he put me on Seroquel. And that antipsychotic made me absolutely, positively, totally psychotic. I mean, everyone I saw, I was planning to kill them.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
So you had
I mean,
issue.
it made me absolutely psychotic. And because of my experience with Xanax as a teenager and how that made me psychotic, I knew immediately I'm on a new medication and I'm psychotic. Ipso facto, I am not psychotic. The medication's making me psychotic. So I opened the door and I took the Seroquel bottle and I threw it as far as I could. And then after 3 weeks where it cleaned out of me, I had absolutely no psychotic thoughts or any desire to hurt anyone in any way, shape, or fashion, just like before the Seroquel.
Mm. So it's safe to say that these medications that the doctor gives you, not good for you.
No. And I've tried to explain this to the doctors, but most of the male ones have God complexes, as I'm sure you understand. It's like the last one. I went to get a new doctor. I explained all of this to them, just as I had to you. And I said, never, ever prescribe me anything that has not been fully explained first. Okay. I leave. The next day, nurse calls me up. He called you in 2 prescriptions.
Mm. So they just didn't listen.
And I said, I told him because of my medical that you don't do that. And then I said, what are they and what are they supposedly for? And she told me, and then I said, go fuck yourself. You're not my doctor anymore. Click. And that's currently why I don't have a doctor. Because the reality of the matter is the next one that I go in, if they don't understand English, you remember back when I talked about having the seizures and there was that part of me that wanted to wipe that doctor across the floor?
Mm-hmm.
That part of me that wants to wipe a doctor across that floor is still there because I have had 3 life-crippling diagnoses in my life. And doctors have covered them up for doctors. And once again, that leaves me a bit salty when it comes to doctors. And in reality, after I explain that to that doctor, I mean, this is the kind of shit that could have got somebody hurt. And me in jail, and him just going on and committing more malpractice.
Yep, that's a pretty scary thing there. But so at this point, you've given up with the medical system. You're just gonna sit on your farm with the pot and manage your condition as your own. You self-medicate as best you can. I think Roger froze. Uh-oh. Hold on. He'll be back. How are people in the chat doing? What exactly did Ouija do? They were just being rude in the chat for no reason. Oh, you're back? And he froze again. Interesting. Oh, you're coming back. You're roboting.
Okay, odd.
Are you back? And no, Kenesha. Normally, doctors do not badmouth each other. And yes, indeed, we're gonna get to that soon. As soon as Roger comes back, we're gonna get into the YouTube stuff. All right, he's dropped out, and he'll be right back. May have to drop the link again. Oh, he's back.
Welcome I had back. To exit and enter. You remember how the World of Warcraft, you know how sometimes you lag out?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it was doing. So the only way I could fix that was to exit and enter.
Yep. It's like turning
off. Now, where were we?
Now, I think we left off. At this point, you're sitting on your farm, giving up the medical system.
Oh, yes. My therapy. Now, my first therapist she was a master's degree in stupid. I mean, she didn't need to be there. She wasn't there for the right reason. She was there for a title and an easy job. And that was basically it. And despite the fact that she had a master's degree, she didn't know her head from her ass. She would make complete assumptions, and therapy with her was a complete waste of time. Well, eventually she left because of a disagreement with Mindsight. They can't get along with anyone, by the way. So, other people like, you got real, yeah, whatever. But yeah, the fact is they can't get along with anyone. And then they got me a family therapist that turned into my good therapist. And she's the one that encouraged me to do YouTube. Because I started, now, it would have been, I didn't get internet here until September of 2017. Mm-hmm. So, that, yeah, that's about right. 2017 is September. The 2 years in the barn. So, yes, that sounds right. I was wondering if my days were off, but thinking about it, I think I've got it right. And that's when I got net here. So I started watching YouTube, and I started watching music reaction videos. And eventually, when I ran out of music reaction videos, it started showing me drama community videos and Amberlynn Reid. And in her third video, I realized that all the plant life around her is the same plant life that is around me. And then after seeing her third video, then you found out, yes, she is local to me. And then Hamber from the Hamber channel wanted me to do YouTube because once again, I could sit on a panel, not on a panel, but in a chat and debunk Amber all day with her lies. No. And I told
go ahead. Sorry.
I told my therapist this, and she wanted me to do YouTube. And we argued back and forth for an hour. Me not wanting to do it, her wanting me to do it. And at the end of the hour, I said I would do it.
Mm-hmm. So you were convinced by your therapist. Now, Kanish wants to know where Veronica is.
She's in the closet, duh.
Okay. Now, at this point, you've made the decision. You were already in chats at this point as a viewer.
Yeah.
Like I used to be.
But I was in a different community, mainly the entertainment one. Because once again, I'd been in a barn for 2 years, so you kind of want to try to find out what you missed. So as soon when I got internet, that's what I was interested, what have I missed in the world? So one of the things I went to is the entertainment community. And once again, what I do. Well, even in a chat, I can do what I do. And I was very helpful, put it that way. And that's when I realized that I can do this on a level that anyone else can. There's a program called Midnight's Edge, and they also have Midnight's Edge After Dark. And these are entertainment journalists. Yeah, and this is where I learned to do YouTube from. Because once again, they had a mystery regarding Disney. And, they were basically putting it out as a part of their program. And I said, hey, wait a minute. This, and this. And, I did what I do, and I basically laid it out for them. And they went, hey, yeah. And then they did a piece. And it turned out that I was seeing the top of a big evil iceberg. I was seeing the noticeable part. But them being entertainment journalists, they actually did some investigating. And like I said, it turned out I was just seeing the tiny bit of the iceberg, and they went and showed the rest of the iceberg. And that's when I realized that I can do this on a level that anyone else can.
Okay, so at this point, you've gotten encouragement from another creator, your therapist, and you've talked it out. What was your first video?
My introduction. Yes, to my channel in the barn, because, I still have my studio set up there, and I've got places for 3 characters to sit, all in a big line. And I have my big giant wargaming table now for my wargaming channel, and that's where I used to do my workouts at.
So, like, did you think that the physio exercise, did that help you at all with your condition? Just being more physically active, you weren't hurting yourself as much?
Well, yeah. I mean, your body's a lot more resilient, when you've been working it.
Okay. And so you've made your channel introduction. Like, what was your first real video? Like, was it to Amberlynn Reid or?
Oh, everything in the beginning was Amber, because I was an Amber channel. Because I wasn't here for YouTube fame or glory. I was just here to debunk Amberlynn Reid. Because once again, truth being stranger than fiction, many of them on the internet say, you're a liar, you're a liar. But I am friends with one of the Amberverse, Ricky. I mean, he used to live with one of my friends. He and I used to get high together. And I know all about him. And then he had to live with Amberlynn Reid. Mm-hmm. So my friend got stuck having to live with Amberlynn Reid. And I still shake my head when I think about it.
Sounds
like what a strange world we live in. And I've not talked to him since 2015, but I know one thing. Now, Ricky is a cool dude. You'd like him. He likes everyone. He is friendly to everyone. A bubbling human being. He would look at Amber with looks that could kill. So my friend that I have never seen look sideways at anyone ever in his life, when he looks at Amberlynn Reid, you could just see he wanted her to just evaporate.
So you're making videos on Amberlynn at this point. You're doing like aren't you doing some actual in real life debunks of some of her claims?
Oh yeah, because I got hate for going to Yamato's. Yamato is the closest sit-down restaurant to my house. For filming the closest sit-down restaurant into my house, I got hundreds of "you're a creepy stalker" comment. They need to put you in jail. I'm like, Amber don't own these restaurants. I mean, and as I pointed out to them, that place that Amber likes to eat at was closer to my house at the time than her house.
That's right. I remember that. You went down and sat in the same seat she was in, right?
Well, yeah, that was in another one. Like I said, all my restaurants around here are Amberverse famous. If any big YouTuber comes down here, I could take them down to these restaurants and they could hashtag Amberlynn and get big videos. Mm. And in reality, if I had transportation, I could probably do that solo. But once again, I don't really care about the numbers thing. Mm-hmm. Numbers many times just shows, are people interested?
Yes. And you started YouTube as a social experience, correct?
Well, because once again, my therapist knew at some point the example. Remember when I told you about New Year's Day 2016? Because at some point, my therapist knows at some point I would start looking at human beings differently. Not in a good way. Because like the people around here, oh my God, I am less than nice. I mean, really, I am. I am kind of, who are you and what the fuck do you want?
So you got your channel, you've got some Amberlynn Reid videos up, you're getting some of your early views. When did Amberlynn Reid herself become aware of you?
Oh, she did quickly. Now, I got on my other channel, I got 1,000 subscribers in 90 days.
Wow.
And that's when they started shadow banning people. If they would not have started shadow banning people, so I got into YouTube like 3 months before they started shadow banning. And in those 3 months, I gained 1,000 subscribers. If YouTube hadn't started with the shadow ban, I'd know about now it would be a massive channel. Now, I probably wouldn't do YouTube anymore because I wouldn't be interested in it. Mm. But go ahead.
All right. So, like Amberlynn Reid, like she sees your videos blowing up. Like I think a lot of Amberlynn Reid videos blew up, and they take notice. And like, how do they react to your videos on them and your real life debunks?
Well, Amber went to where I got therapy at and raised a stink, and the owner got mad.
So they got
Very
mad.
mad.
They got mad at you, and did
Oh
you
yeah.
suffer any consequences from this?
Oh yes, with my peer support. And that is the end why I lost my services. Because that owner is holding a grudge because the Amberlynn Reid thing upset their feels. And once I get a judge to say that the governor didn't have, you know how they do the rulings over COVID? The day that they say our governor didn't have the right to shut off services, I've got a case against them all. Because their entire shutting down my services was pretexted on the governor said we can.
Mm.
So the day that the governor is proved that he didn't have that authority, then I actually do have a case.
Mm. So Amberlynn Reid goes down to like mine site, is it? Where you get your services? And she makes the stink. So let's go into specifics. Like, what exactly did Amberlynn Reid go in real life when you act? Like, what did she take from you?
She threatened my peer support. She did. Now I'm not going to say her name, but I do have her on Instagram. She actually did threaten my peer support with a woman with an anxiety disorder.
Mm.
And this is why I will be mean to Amberlynn Reid on YouTube. And this is why, and I have swore that when I do see her in real life, I am going to humiliate her. I'm going to get up right next to her and use the phone and like do the selfies and, kind of get a little too close in her space.
Mm-hmm.
The obnoxious asshole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can just imagine obnoxious asshole, clicking pictures. I probably won't go live or nothing like that, but I'll click pictures. I'll be absolutely obnoxious and within the law.
So Amberlynn, your services that Amberlynn calls you, like they were giving you like rides and stuff. They were helping you.
Well, yeah, I lost everything and got left here to die.
Yes.
And at first, my support worker was taking up for me, and then they threatened her job, and then she facilitated me getting put here with nothing by lying that I had help on the way and then got ghosted. And I'll never forget that. And all these people, now you remember during my therapy, all these people, we love you. We care about you, Roger. You're important. They all sold me out and left me to die, either because they were afraid of COVID or that boss. And I will never believe anyone when they say they care again. And that is what I took out of all of that.
So you've had the experiences with Amberlynn Reid. Is there anyone else you covered prior to Deity?
Oh, let me think. Now, we did talk Shanny a little bit because Shanny, as you know, was the dirty leader, and we were all worshiping Satan to influence her son. And of course, it wasn't anything about Shanny and what Shanny is doing. It was because we were all worshiping Lucifer.
Right. And you made a good amount of those videos too?
When it needed, when she was on the Satan kick, she was the sometime person, but I think that was it.
Okay. Did Shanny ever become aware of you?
Well, yes, because you see, Shanny and our channels used to be always comparable. And where people joke say, you're just doing it for subscribers. On my other channel, I had one thing. I just wanted to have more subscribers than Shanny for Christ. Because I thought, if Shanny has more subscribers than me, then I have no faith left in the world. and I usually kept my channel just a little bit above Shanny's.
That and her channel is gone now, correct?
Yep.
So I suppose you win by default.
Well, actually, you weren't here for her scandal. She had a cross-country trip to where at some point, Rev and her were threatening the children on live stream in the back of the car.
Oh.
And that was the point that she did lose her YouTube channel.
That makes sense. So, so you discovered Deity, and you were one of his. Like you were even earlier than me, I believe.
Well, I felt sorry for the little guy. I mean, you remember how he started off? Skinny, naive, and he had a good intention. It's just everything wrapped in him was evil.
The people around him were evil.
Yes.
So,
well, Deity, as you know, Deity is SJW to the SJW.
Mm-hmm.
He's also the SJW police. And I've also been saving him because, once again, I've not told Nicolina about the SJW thing, but I think that would really, really make her like to poke him, put it that way. And I've secretly been saving that to, one day on a slow day, it's like, Nicolina, there's this guy, Deity, and I mean, he's like the ultimate SJW, and you can really, really hurt his feelings. So I thought one day when we're really bored and I feel like, well, I am going to hell anyway.
So, you were one of Deity's earliest subscribers. So you how did your whole banning, what Deity used to do is he would basically ban you from his channel and then start trash talking you. So what would you do to get banned?
I was entertaining. Yes, typically like I am in a chat, when I am a chatter in your chat, I am also there to help your channel by being entertaining. If I don't have any mod duties, one of the things that I'm doing is help making your chat entertaining. So I was doing the same thing. And this is the only channel that I have ever got banned on for being entertaining. Deity, as you know, he's the Lord of Butthurt. And once again, you know that I can go into a chat and people are going to say hello to me. Well, it was the same way there. And once again, Deity took that as some form of being upstaged. And then all of a sudden, that's when he started crafting on how we were being mean to Amber because he had to have some reason to validate his bullshit.
So you actually started to cover Deity before I did, because I remember before my first video, you had already made some. What was your first Deity video about?
Well, typically I like to poo-poo him. I mean, you can't argue Deity on points because he slanders to you, makes up whole cloth stuff, and then hides it. So you can't debate with that. You just have to poo-poo it. Now, once again, an example of that is you. Remember when Deity was going to settle it with you and you end up muted and then he went off on his insane rant that,
a legendary rant.
I wish right now, I want that shown again. I mean, seriously, not right this minute because I know it would be an interruption, but that was epic. You were the epitome of evil in his eyes.
Yes, I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't that.
I did, though, because I expected it to be a girl, because that's always behind the scenes, once again, outside of YouTube. I'm like, that was my joke with him. I'm like, it's like, what would the most pouty girl do? That's what Deity will do. Because I knew it from the very beginning. And he could not talk to you unless he had two mods there to protect him at all times on the panel.
Yes.
He had to have them there like the security blanket.
And I may actually play that in another stream because it's relevant again. But the thing is, if you look at the moderators' faces, he managed to make them mortified. Like they were very uncomfortable. They were way more uncomfortable than I was, and I was the one being yelled at.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's no one original left on his channel. None of them know.
Yeah. So
I've looked into that, and he's made sure to purge anyone that does know about his past. He's purged Trisha. No, that was our Trisha, because I have run into her here and there across our YouTube land, and we're currently amiable, even though she does tend to get angry and bipolar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't seen anyone from the old Deity crew around, so I think they've moved on. Maybe they're going to be a little less trusting of their favorite creator.
Well, we will find one currently in our enemy's camp, and I'll tell you on that one privately. But let's put it this way: he likes to use a dog as an icon.
Okay.
That tells you who it is right now. So once again, he's currently in one of our enemy's camp, and our blue wizard has went on to the bad side of the void, and he also went over to the dark side, and he's currently in hiding after his last YouTube ass whipping. For he actually started plotting against me.
Mm.
So he and I had to cross swords, and after that crossing of swords, he has once again went and hid. And we're just waiting for him to pop his little head up with yet another new name.
Stacy, we are discussing Deity of YouTube right now.
These are our old YouTube wars.
Yes. So, how did you end up finding me? I don't remember. Like, I think I linked one of your videos in my my interview with Kanish here, actually.
Well, once again, as you know, I see everything. So I was keeping track of everyone that Deity was persecuting, because Deity got like 8,000 subscribers quickly, and he was slandering people left and right. Remember, everyone watching now that knows, I fight YouTube dragons. And he was going about YouTube scorch earthing chatters. You can poo-poo me all you want. Whatever. I'll work against that. And that's what Verily Veronica started as. Because, as you know, we were homophobes. Remember that with Deity? He was telling hundreds every day we were homophobes and hiding it to get hate mobs into our chat.
Along with saying that we were RSN spies. That was my.
And neither of us at the time had ever said a word to RSN.
I had only been to a stream like one time, and I'd learned about him from Deity.
At that time, I had never even been to his stream and never traded a word with him.
So it was definitely some sort of paranoid delusions he was having, because he did this to several people, and there's people in his chat. He was accusing people in his chat of having ulterior motives.
Yep. And this was someone that we had to put down. And currently he's only got about 6,000 subscribers left. And he has pathetic little streams that he'll review Foodie Beauty. And where once he was a skinny lad, now he's turned into what he covers.
Nicolina, it is just Deity. I think if you look up Deity and then like maybe some Amberlynn or some Foodie Beauty type stuff, you might be easier to find him.
I'll link him for you. In a private DM, I'll link him for you. But yeah, now he's chilled out a lot. But I mean, I used to make the joke. And now this is a joke, and it's not a joke at the same time. I was like, now his name is Phil. We know a lot of Phils on YouTube. So yes, he's Phil. So I was always joking. It's like the teacher would say, Phil, what's 2 + 2? Phil would have his head in his hands, would look up at the teacher and say, you don't understand, I'm gay. Because everything in the universe for him always went back to that. You could say, what color's the sky? And you would get him talking about being persecuted for being gay.
Now, have you were you there during his Dollar General meltdown?
Oh yeah, Now, I was banned during that, so I got to watch from afar.
You got banned way before I did then.
Oh, yeah, I was banned. See, I realized after his banning on me and how he was treating everyone that he was going to leave carnage in his wake. So that's what I basically did, is I kept track of everyone he was persecuting, and you were just in his chat. And, you can tell the rest of the story from there.
Yeah.
Because that's how I saw you, was, the day he decided to turn on you.
Okay. So yeah, that was an interesting tale. So from that point on, I made videos about him, some of my early videos. Not my best quality work, but nonetheless, I am still proud of them.
Well, honestly, it's kind of funny. Now I do the lowest quality work on YouTube I've ever done. I mean, seriously. I mean, my channel really has very rarely seen me do my A+ effort, because at this point, I just really can't care anymore. And really, I should do better.
Yes, we'll tell this story. The water toxicity. So he had drank a bunch of water, and he was wondering, like he felt really sick, and I think I worried I drank too much water. Isn't it like possible to suffer from water toxicity? And he had less than a gallon of water, right? Something like that. And he had his mod girls like freaking out in the chat, trying to look up water toxicity, the symptoms, and yeah, that about sums up his entire channel right there.
Now, if you look at one of my recent vids, I did a deity update, and I went over to his channel for a few minutes, and I clicked on it, and he looked up and said, "Y'all, I'm going bald, and I'm dying." And then I clicked that as my deity update, because everyone that knows deity, all they have to do is hear that, and it's like, yep, there you go.
Now, something else I want to say. I think we did do a number on him with our video after video after video.
That was we used to get him to melt down. I mean, some of his meltdowns could be fun. And this is why I said I kind of saved him for a slow day, because if we were actually wanting to antagonize someone just for funsies, he would definitely be one that would be worth it and deserve it, because I don't go around bothering people if they don't deserve it. I also want to get him, Bob, and Lori together, because I want to see who can be the bigger victim.
Now, I want to say something else, too. He not only did we do a number on him, he also did quite a number on himself. He's only recently turned 30, and his beard has quite a bit of gray in it before he shaved it off recently. So I want to say that we have stressed this man out.
I'll tell you what it is right now. You don't know this? Well, you remember how he was on the Suboxone for his pill addiction? Mm-hmm. He's still on the Suboxone now.
Okay.
He's never weaned off of it. They've still got him down there in Alabama on that Suboxone. And I know some people around here that take half their Suboxone and sell it, and they live off of that.
And that would be able to explain his living situation, why he's still.
And I do believe that's always what he's done, because in one of his recent lives, he said, "I've got my medicine under my tongue and it has to melt." So that was telling me that was a Suboxone strip he was taking again.
Okay. So yes, he told me at one point that he was hoping to make a buck off YouTube and everything, but eventually he just got to a point where he between our videos exposing him, he had meltdowns. Then he just kept doing the same. And when he tried to move on, he kept doing the same repeated content, and then after that, he faded away.
Well, he was doing well with doing Onision for a while, but as you remember what I said, when I started doing this, I got told, don't do Onision, because I was told his crowd is so toxic, you do not want that in your channel.
You're not wrong.
And that's what he did. After that, he started doing Onision. And he learned what I was told. Now, I was told this, so I took their word for it. But that was a part of his downfall, and now he just plays Foodie Beauty reactions to about 14 people despite the fact that he's got over 6,000 subscribers still.
So at this point, like the deity stuff's been pretty much resolved, and I know some of these dramas are actually connected. Who did you bump into next on these YouTube streets? Like was it Queen of Spade, or was there other people in between?
Well, actually, remember my mentor Hamber on YouTube that wanted me to start YouTube? She wanted me to cover Elvis Travels.
Okay.
Because she liked Elvis Travels. And that's how I found the Boit.
Oh, yes.
And then I ended up covering one person from the Boit and then my regular stuff. And about that time is when YouTube said, you can't just cover one person.
Indeed, I remember.
So then I was like, okay, I'll just have to cover several people. And that's when I expanded out from Amberlynn Reid.
Right. So, you made, I actually remember when you were covering Elvis Travel, you did some streams and some videos about him. And he did become aware of you as well.
He hates me. He tries to dox me every chance he gets, and yes, he still hates me. Now, he wants Verily Veronica, but he hates me.
So,
because Elvis is a tranny chaser.
So he is not aware that they're the same account or same person, different account.
Yes, and he's not well.
Okay.
That's all I can think. I mean, I ain't got no logic to it. If you ask me why, hell if I know.
So like Elvis Travels, like you said he hates you. Like has he made threats? Like how far has he gone in his hatred?
Well, he's tried to dox, and once again, I know when he's seething. Just saying. He was smart enough not to try to broadcast it. But yeah, he did. I mean, I was the big one that was not allowed in his chat. But then everyone was focusing around my channel. My biggest numbers were when me and him were fighting. I think I like 320 or 360 one time in my chat on the other channel when him and I were arguing. And typically what I do when I pushed him a little hard, he would come in chat and I just let him mouth off to me. But it let chat go at him. Because as you know, Elvis would make sure that people couldn't get at him when he didn't have control. So I would incite him to come into my chat so my chat could get a piece of him. And that was my longtime formula.
So Elvis Travels, and you have your feud down. He eventually did get banned. Like I believe that he said he was going to start taking down people's channels, and he said that in a video.
Yep.
And then
39 copyright strikes incoming. And I said, you're going to get terminated. And he pulled down Dave the Fisherman and 2 other channels, and YouTube terminated him.
And was that the end of your feud at that point?
Pretty much, because my typical rule is if they're not on YouTube, they're not my problem.
Irish, we have discussed Deity just a bit ago, and he is still around. However, he's balding and dying,
and he is still a false god.
Still. So, following your feud with Elvis Travels, like who was next? Who was next on the chopping block?
Rich Life, because the boy could not let go of Elvis Travels. So, several of us in conspiracy, and this was a conspiracy, how usually everyone always says that they're conspiring together. Well, really conspiring together is very rare. But in this case, we decided we want to keep Elvis buried. So that's when I started covering Rich Life as a distraction, because Witty Widow had a stream, and Rich Life went to South Carolina, and he got a maniac, a homeless woman named Anna, and he took her from Mississippi and dumped her in South Carolina. When they finally had a falling out at a Walmart. She went in the Walmart. He put all of her stuff out of the van and took off back to North Carolina and abandoned her.
Hmm.
And I went, wow. And then as soon as he got back to North Carolina, you know what he said? I'm going to find me another homeless woman.
Oh.
Then I did this. And then I said, I could not let you do this unopposed.
Yeah, no,
Because he
that's
was basically
predatory.
looking for a homeless woman to exploit.
So from that point on, like you start your making videos about Rich Life, you know, calling him out for this, like, and he's aware of you. Like I've seen him in your comment section before, but he seems like
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of
Yeah.
like sometimes.
Well, the thing is he can't get along with anyone, and peace never lasts. And currently we are at peace, and it's not going to last. And he's got a couple thousand subscribers, and at this point now, and in reality, nothing's ever changed. I mean, I could do the same things, but he's in North Carolina now. He's not out hunting him a homeless woman. So he's not quite a dragon. He may be an ogre, but he's not a dragon at the moment.
Mm-hmm. So like he's still around. His channel is still up. Would you
Actually, it's about his 9th or 10th one since you were here.
Oh, okay. So it's just a clone.
Well, in reality, anyone could terminate it with his original URL. It's just, as you know, I don't go around doing that as much as I'm accused of. Now, Darren, I created the Verily Veronica honey trap on Instagram. Because remember when I used to do Verily Veronica, I would take a few pictures every time that I would do it for lives on YouTube. And I accrued them on Instagram. And I created a honey trap over there to destroy an enemy that would go out of bounds. Now, it recently got Cotton-Eyed Darren. Now, I tried to get Bob and Lori recently because I tricked them into porn bombing themselves by showing my porn bomb pictures on my phone, which of course I can't show here, but it's basically a girl with a guy in a giant peg. Because I thought, well, I've never porn bombed before, but if I wanted to porn, if I ever decided to, it's there and ready to be done. And of course, it's a woman pegging a guy with a big, gigantic thing.
Wow. Yeah. So we're gonna get to them. We're gonna go in order, but we're gonna get to all that. Don't worry.
So yes, Bob and Lori. Now the funny thing is it was flagged, but apparently the pictures being that small on the screen didn't take. But and it's still on their channel. If you look down at yes. Now, it's not on my channel anymore because Roger was smart enough to delete it.
Yeah, I would definitely do that. So you made the videos on Rich Life. You've had all of that go down. Where do we go to next? When do we get the Queen of Spade? Like, do we have anyone else in between?
Queen of Spade went back to RSN.
Okay.
If we go back to the time where we started our actual first encounters to RSN, soon after that, Queen of Spade did something dumb. I know. You can't believe that Queen of Spade would do something dumb. But she did a video, and in this video, she basically said that she will set up RSN for anyone that wants her to and say anything.
Yes.
And I did a video on that busting her. And that made for quite a while RSN like me. And of course, Beth did not like me exposing her. So that's when I started having to do videos on Beth because, as you know, Beth, Queen of Spades, does not leave alone. Now, once again, being evil, I think that, like, for example, Nicolina hates lips. And this is what Queen of Spades is for. If you get, like, lips and Queen of Spade together, you would have hours of never-ending enjoyment. Because when YouTube Schizophrenic interviewed her, she got upset at some point. On one video, she left 800 comments on one comment stream.
It was my Bells of Nevermore interview. Yes, it was 800 comments, not little comments, walls of texts.
Yes. I mean, nothing does this justice. She wrote a book in the comments. and then weeks later deleted it. I'm like, damn, if I wrote that, and this is when he says walls of text. I mean, these were 800 comments, and they were walls of text.
Yes.
Like chapters. I mean, this was basically a novel.
She went back and apologized and then deleted a bunch of them. She said she was going to delete them all. She deleted about 400 of them, I think, or something like that. There's still several hundred comments under that video that she has not touched.
Okay, well, I have to go back to that sometime to document the crazy.
Yeah, it's something. It's something.
Into the mind of Beth, Queen of Spade.
So at that point, you said RSN liked you. So I remember you were somewhat in his community a bit. Well, how did you?
Well, once again, I just went over and entertained. Now the thing is RSN? No, the other way. RSN had lost his audience, and he basically was following my audience because it eventually became basically Boit in his chat. And that's when he started covering Rich Life all the time.
Yeah, he had Rich Life on his panel, and I watched that, and I always thought he was kind of setting him up, kind of exploiting him a bit. But, so you all went your separate ways. Was there any conflict there? We're getting to the.
Oh yeah. Now it all started now CJ, Real Stream News, he's on drugs again. Now him and Neg started fighting, and at the time CJ Rich Life channel was terminated, and CJ wanted to put Rich Life on YouTube with him giving him a channel at the time where Rich Life was still at the height of his hate. And I simply said, they will eat you. And because at the time, anybody that was going to help Rich Life, they were going to get their channel pulled down by Marcus. No doubt about that. And Negs asked in a comment, why does CJ do this? And Negs and CJ were fighting. And I simply answered, CJ does not think anything through. He wants what he wants, and then he goes after it. He doesn't think about repercussions. Is this a good idea? And he got bent out of shape over that. Just because I said that he does not think this through and that the crowd will eat him. You know, I put this in a separate comment, that the crowd would eat him if he gave Rich Life a channel.
Okay. So
which is true.
So you began in conflict with him. Were you making videos back and forth on each other?
Well, no, actually, he was mainly making videos on me, all pissy. So, you know, once again, every now and then, I humiliated him as I do. So, you know, I did what I usually do: let them shoot, take one or two good shots, and just nail the target and be done with it.
Okay. So, at this point, you've already racked up quite the YouTube body count. RSN and Rich Life, all of that gets resolved. Like, where do we go from here? Because I know eventually we end up with Nicolino. Like, what happened in between?
Well, the thing is after they cut all my services here, you know, I knew the next great thing will be happening. And I had a lot of work to do here on this place, you know, to my house and to the farm. So I mainly did that work. And then Leticia reared her interesting head. Yes, that's how I will put it. Leticia reared her interesting head. And I was like her 220th subscriber. I had already been subscribed to her. I already knew about her. I already had some of her lore because when I discovered her was her cuddle days. Because I would make jokes about the $80 cuddle girl. But there wasn't really much on YouTube I could make interesting about the $80 hooker. And now, once again, when she popped back up and she said that she froze the puppies, I went, ew. And then I'm like, well, YouTube is now going to pile on you like a shark. And at that moment, that's when I knew that this is going to be the next big thing. And many of the other smaller creators around me had already gathered everything about Leticia and had started covering her. And then, of course, that's how I met Adonis.
Okay.
Now, I'm not sure on which chat I met Nicolina in, if it was Adonis's or Original Owl. But it was in one of the two chats. I can't remember which. I want to say Adonis, but I might not be correct on that.
Okay.
She might have to illuminate us on that.
So you met in another creator's chat, and it was all over the Love Notes for TLC drama when that was going on.
Well, you know how things is. You know, when I cover something like that, I become an expert in them.
Mm-hmm.
And believe it or not, now I'm a Truthfully Trisha mod on her backup channel, or Verily Veronica is.
Interesting.
And I used to cover her, and she used to say horrible things about me. And, you know, I can make peace. You know, once again, a lot of people are unhappy that I'm not poo-pooing Trisha. Mm-hmm. But at this point, Trisha is just fighting with Paula because they're locked in a death grip. Mm-hmm. Paula from Jeremy's mom is her channel name, and Truthfully Trisha, they're just in a death grip trolling each other to death.
Mm.
So there's not really anything to watch other than the cat fight.
Right. So at this point, you've met Nicolina in a chat. Like, how did you end up on her channel? Were you just like, oh, I know this person from a chat. Let me go see if they have a channel. Like, how did all that start?
Well, once again, it's all the covering of the Leticia.
Okay.
You know, once again, people can watch all the clips they want, but you know, if to actually understand this creature, you're going to have to come to my channel.
Okay.
And Adonis did pretty good in commentary with, you know, what you saw. Leticia parts 1 and 2.
Yes, there's a part 3 as well.
Yeah.
But
that was very recent.
Yes. Both his series on Love Notes for TLC and Adrasdia are both pretty good.
Now, Adrasdia is a problem, and I can't stand her. Oh my God, I can't stand Adrasdia.
Yes.
But she is a lying fabricator, and I had to do a video on her today. They've got new simps that got Adonis Paul's channel struck. Well, when she gets a new chunk of subs, she always comes back with the same grifts. Adonis Paul this, Adonis Paul that.
And timeline-wise, Adrasdia and Love Notes for TLC were kind of active around the same time. This at a period of craziness.
Well, actually, he was covering Adrasdia before Leticia. And I discovered Adrasdia through him.
Okay. Yeah, and go ahead.
Well, currently Adonis Paul is usually finding people through me now.
Okay.
You know, the funny thing is Adonis Paul has been finding a few people, and he even covered our favorite person with glasses.
Oh.
Yes. He had seen her on my tab, but now and then Adonis is seeing interesting people on my tab, and you know, like Cyanide Cringe Cakes, and
that was an amazing stream. I haven't seen Adonis since it was old Suit Yourself's Discord, I think, is where I had seen him previously. I hadn't watched him in a while, and that was my first intro back to him, and it was great.
You know, I was always so mean to Suit too. I mean, like, you know, the girl creators are so used to being nice. Oh my God, I was always so mean to Suit. But Suit always acts so full of himself. So I was always, I mean, in reality, Bob, you know, is like, you know, thinks that I'm bullying people on YouTube. I bullied Suit. I mean, honestly, he had a bigger channel than I did, and I bullied Suit a little bit. Not much, but you know, I have to admit, I did bully him a little bit.
No, I like Suit Yourself, but from there, like we've you're in that community. You've met Nicolina and everything. So who was your first real target after you've met this new group of people?
Ernest, because Ernest is a grifter, and he was partners with Jimbo.
Oh yes, I'm aware of him.
Because I don't particularly like either of them. Now, Ernie is a minor evil, but he's only a threat to women.
So, like, you start targeting this Ernest, this grifter. You make videos on him. I assume some streams. Does he become aware of you?
Get this though, I've run into Ernie in real life
Oh,
before I had seizures at a Wendy's in Mount Vernon, right near exit 62 off I-75.
okay.
So Jimbo and Ernie are local to me.
Was this a significant encounter
No,
that you actually remember it?
well, no, the thing is now, see, once again, we may have to do a stream sometime on my condition, but one thing with my complex PTSD being from birth, I have total recall. If I can image a time and a place in my mind, I have total recall. But I have to do that. I have to stop, close my eyes sometimes, but I have to be able to image the time and the space. But if I can image the time and the space in my mind, I can recall everything. Ernie had a security uniform on. He was talking to two cops, and I was going to go in there and get a bunch of burgers because they currently had, the buck burger deal. And I had $20. I was going to go in there and buy 20 burgers with that in the change in my pocket and go down to Greg's. And I was going to have 4 or 5 of the burgers myself and kind of throw the rest on the table for everyone that's there.
Okay. So you start making things on Ernie, and you've already met him in real life, so you know he's local. So like, does he become aware of you? Does he have anything to say back?
Well, actually, currently, well, he did. He actually tried to gaslight that I'm a child predator. Kind of like Dee and them tried with us.
Yes.
Now, see, once again, they expected me to freak out. You know how the normals are. Ernie expected me to freak out at that. I'm like, it's Tuesday. I mean, any horrible thing that you accuse me of, it's Tuesday. We've been there. We've done that.
So like he starts making up lies about you, and now I believe he's moved on, right? For now, like your feud has ended mostly.
Well, no, I'm still probably going to run his face in the dirt, but I didn't say. Oh shit! I just said it on YouTube, didn't I? But I won't do anything really bad to him. No, okay. Put him in his place maybe because in real life. Because see, after that he wished to physically challenge me. So once again, being from Kentucky, if I was to see him, he will have to understand that he does not run this place. I do. Now, Jimbo came after me with a gun, and
yes,
I guess he thought that was going to scare me.
So you went after Jimbo and Ernie at the same time, and that Jimbo, like, how did things build up to that point where Jimbo was coming at you with a gun?
He actually thought, I did a stream on him, and he thought he was going to intimidate me or something. I mean, I grew up on Vine Street in Cincinnati. I've had many guns pulled on me, and I've never been shot.
Okay. So did he make a stream showing off the gun saying he was coming to you, or did he just say
yeah. Now I've got one to where he came to a local place, and I've got a receipt of that.
Okay.
Because after my stream, this was the middle of the night. I went to bed. And then, now this is the reason why he came at 4 a.m, because he was scared he'll find me, no doubt. But you see, I have a policy. After you come hunting me with a gun, if I see you, I can't turn my back to you. Can. Now, once again, if someone came after you with a gun, would you ever, for any reason, turn your back to them? No. You have to go right through them. So that has put me and Jimbo on a collision course.
So, like,
because if I see him, I got to whip his ass.
Yeah. So he went very far, but this wasn't just some offhanded comment. This was like an intentional threat.
And getting his teenage son in the car to come with him.
Oh, wow. That's even worse.
And that means is once that boy hits 18, if I see him out there, on our real streets, not the YouTube ones, he's going to have to put them up. He will have to show me his dukes.
Yes, I'm surprised someone could do something like that and not have their channel terminated.
Well, YouTube's mainly bots now, and for the most part, they don't care. But, this is real life, and I don't care if the channel's terminated or not. Jimbo thought he was going to intimidate me. Guns do not intimidate me. Now, once again, had he tried to pull a gun on me, we would have had a rousing game of get the gun. And I have yet to lose a rousing game of get the gun.
Yes, and your feud with Jimbo is still ongoing. This has not resolved itself yet at all.
Well, the thing, I'm plain about it. After he did that, I have to smash him. If I see him for my own safety, I have to leave him in a pile on the floor. Or get whatever weapon he has from him now, don't I? I mean, there's no logic. That's the only logic I'm left. But Jimbo's a coward. So once again, he projects that I'm going to be scared.
Yes. And like the initial issue that caused you to start making videos on Jimbo, do you want to just go into detail on that for those who may not know?
Well, he was just in the Ernie crowd. I was just covering his live stream on audio because, see, Jimbo liked to do a lot of insightful things after Nicolina would have to go to bed on a work day.
Okay.
You know how the lolcows do. They like to get it to where, they can be the most insightful when the person can't respond. So I was covering him late night when he was doing that.
Okay. And so go ahead.
And once again, he thought that he was going to come and scare me. Nope. All that means if I see him, I'm going to whip his ass. And this means is when I see his boy, I got to whip his ass too.
Oh, damn. So at that point, you've taken on Jimbo and Ernie, still taking them on. And like, when do you run into like Melton? Is Melton the next one that you started covering?
Now, actually, Melton is back to Boyd days. If you go all the way back to Elvis Travels coverage, that's when Melton starts. And Melton would threaten me and everyone else, and I would just say, Melton, I forgive you, because I know Melton was sick. And for over 2 years of dealing with Melton, all of his threats, including the I will kill you, I would just say, Melton, I forgive you. But then he started terrorizing women in his chat. Literally terrorizing women in the chat. And the more that he terrorized them, the more he got off on it and the more he did it. And then at some point after this became an obvious reoccurring pattern that was not going to end, I said I would rather have him fight me than to terrorize innocent women that are chatters. And I think it was Laura Stevenson, the, boy lady that, she's just a chatter. She doesn't have a channel. She's just a chatter. And he was doing that to her, terrorizing her. And I said, I have had enough. And then I typed in chat and then I engaged him. And of course, he did not like being engaged. And I used my humor to piss him the hell off.
Right. So, as it stands right now, does he see? I've heard. I went to one of his live ones, and he just casually mentions you. So, talked about him training some crows to send your way. Like he wanted to send a murder of crows at you. I don't know. But
I got a whole bunch of cats, and they murder the hell out of crows. So, I mean, I think he needs to work his way up the food chain.
So, your feud is still, that's another feud that is still ongoing. I know you still cover him from time to time.
I'm poking him this week because he wants attention. Now, on my live stream last night, that's what a lot of it was about, that Melton wants attention. He is in Texas, but he pretended he was in Alabama stalking Mark Terry. And he was trying to get streams made about him.
Yes.
And so that's where, and no one did. But I said, oh, Melton wants attention. So this week, I am going to make poo-poo words to Melton. Now, in a couple of them, I'm going to have some valid critique. But I'm mainly going to piss him off. Okay. Because now he was stalking a man that looked a little like Mark Terry. and was pretending he was stalking him on a live stream. Now, he did look a lot like Mark Terry, but I know that Mark Terry has a big bald spot, and the guy didn't have one. And now, if it wasn't for that fact, Melton might have pulled off that farce. I might have bid on that one because, I mean, the guy did look that much like Mark Terry. And then, once again, he went around pretending he was in Alabama and stalking and threatening Mark Terry. And no one paid any attention. So that's why I decided that this week, just for Melton, I will give him poo-poo words.
Okay. So from now that we've got to cover the Melton stuff, where do we go after that? Who's next?
Well, we don't know who's next.
Oh, okay. So
actually, we got some ideas, but that's kind of like guild business.
Yeah, but so we've covered Melton. Like, when do we get to voices behind the shit and your issues with them? Because they're in the title.
Well, they're just kind of an annoying pest.
Okay.
You know, they're like that little insect that floats around, except they're not little. Okay. Now, that actually started for me with Adonis Paul.
All leads back
and not Nicolina, believe it or not.
Okay.
Because Bob hates Adonis Paul. Bob can't stand Adonis Paul.
Okay.
And Adonis Paul will be absolutely positively cordial to Bob. And that makes Bob seethe.
Interesting.
And because that's how I met Bob. And Adonis and I had kind of, well, put it this way. We were under the idea he could be reasonable. So at that time, we, quote, made a little peace with him. And soon after, that's when Nicolina and I started, when I got let me think, probably, I want to be accurate on this, probably month and a half later, I got a wrench at Nicolina's. So, that was before I, quote, knew Nicolina, but close around to the time.
Okay.
And then through her community, I found out what actual piles of garbage they are.
Right. So
go ahead.
What was your inspiration to start making content on them? Because it was you that started making content on them first, right?
Well, let me think. Now, I'm trying to remember. They're so irrelevant. Everything relevant I put to memory, but Bob and Lori really are so irrelevant. I think they were running their mouth. I think the way that worked is, remember, after Adonis and I talked to them, I think then they were running their mouth. And then I think I made jokes in chat. And then I think they said words, and then I made videos, and then they have never shut up since. I think that's how the dynamic worked out.
Okay.
Thinking about it.
And something they've done recently, they've put up a video from your channel where you were threatening to put a picture of his what was the term? His fat, morbidly obese-faced kid.
Hell yeah! I mean, I got it right on this phone, and I mean, he's round, very round.
Let's go into detail about that. So that video was actually taken a bit out of context. So what is the full context?
Yes.
Why were you threatening this?
Because Bob and Lori go around to terrorize people on stock accounts who are mentally ill.
Yes.
Because they have a power fetish. Both Bob and Lori are shut-ins. They are both morbidly obese shut-ins that are cry bullies. They have no social skills other than to be a victim.
Okay, and there's a video confirming this. But now let's go into detail about what they actually did.
Kimmy's.
Yes, I'll link the video in the chat as you describe it.
Now, in reality, I wasn't involved in any of this. I was on the sidelines when all this is happening, and I am new to Kimmy's, fairly. But, I also know that they were torturing her intentionally. And I wasn't going to stand for that. No. You know how it is. Now, once again, these are two people that desire power overall. Like Bob calling the police on me. The police still aren't here, Bob. Nope, the police are not here and they're not coming. No, they're not, Bob. And now he's threatening they're going to take down my YouTube channel, YouTube Schizophrenic, because Bob and Lori are full of fear. So they like to project fear onto others is a power thing. And this is what they were doing with Kimmy's, with what you linked down there in the chat.
Yes.
Now, once again, I wasn't the people that busted him, but you know what? I'm not going to let Bob and Lori, remember, just like we talked about Melton. I said I forgive you to Melton for 2 years. But at the point that he started terrorizing people, I said, well, big boy, you and I are going to do it up. And that is basically why Bob and Lori and I are going to do it up.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to be here till the end of time that they're on YouTube.
Now, to go into
they can't get rid of me.
To go into a bit more detail about the video I just linked, about what these people did. So they went into a mentally ill woman's chat. She's very calm from what I've seen of her content. She's not exactly a threat to anybody.
Yeah.
They made sock accounts of like two of her dead family members.
Mm-hmm.
They cloned Pendar's account, who's friendly with her, and they tormented her. And then after they triggered her to have a mental breakdown, they then contacted the police, and then she was held involuntarily in a psych ward. I think that reminds me of some of the stuff that happened to Chris Chan that the trolls did to him.
Yep. And this is when I said, if you bother her again, I'm going to show that picture on YouTube to show that your 12-year-old kid is severely morbidly obese and looks like he could drop of a heart attack at any time. See, I didn't say that part. You know, that I saved that for commentary if I had to show the picture. And I've still never shown the picture. Mm-hmm. And they have gone back and terrorized Kimmy again. So I do feel I'm in the right to show it. Now, once again, I'm still going to hold that picture over their head for now. Because I think it'll be fun. Because you only get to use this club once. Yeah.
So from that point on, with this voices behind the shit situation, now they're still making content about you. They've actually responded to and tagged me in something as well about this stream. So, like, do you have anything in particular you'd like to say to them? Because this is your most current feud, I would say.
Well, let me see. The first 8 options are against terms of service. Okay, the 9th one's against terms of service too. Ah, shit, so's the 10th one. Well, yeah, I guess they're kind of hard. I'm going to have to edit myself on this one. Let me see. Now, it sucks. If summer wasn't in my lap, I'd do charades. Yeah, but it'd be like, go F yourself, you know, in charades. Just saying.
Okay. So, yep. Let's see. Is there anyone that we did not discuss yet that you'd like to bring up? Because you've had a long history on YouTube. Actually, it's something I want to bring up. So you have actually had a channel get taken down falsely before.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's the story behind that? Because your original channel that I knew you for has basically been completely removed from YouTube.
A YouTube glitch. Now, the thing is, as you know, most of my subscribers are there for larger girl content. Mm-hmm. Now, I ended up in a trap. Now, Amberlynn Reid, she just intentionally lies to get busted in it to create drama for more clicks. Mm-hmm. And after I could prove that beyond a shadow of a doubt, that would be the same commentary, wouldn't it be? I mean, every Amberlynn Reid video would be, Amber's lying to you for clicks. Mm-hmm. I mean, literally, it would be the same commentary every single video. Because Amber needs removed from YouTube. Okay. Because that's all she's doing. It would be like me just saying sensational crap to gain hate so I could try to farm YouTube for money. And that's all she's doing. You know, where Leticia was generally mentally ill. Now, when she said that she froze the puppies, she was expecting us to praise her for it. You know, the way she was trying to frame it. No one would want them, and I was putting them out of the suffering. You know, Leticia is actually crazy. Where Amberlynn Reid, she's just a lying fat girl, a lying little girl. That's all Amberlynn Reid is. And after that, I mean, where do you really go with commentary after that?
Yeah. So was it the Amberlynn crowd that had your channel taken down?
Nope. It's just a glitch. I can get the channel back anytime I want it.
Oh, okay.
Because Cyanide Cupcake's channel was lost too. And so was about 100 other people's. And everybody got them back.
Oh, okay. So,
but the fact of the matter is, what am I going to do with it? That channel was shadow banned out ass. I couldn't do anything on it and gain a subscriber. The only time I gained a subscriber was off big feuds. Because I was that deeply shadow banned. And I came to the conclusion that YouTube did not like Amberlynn Reid coverage. And they were downgrading it.
Mm-hmm.
So, in reality, the channel became useless.
Okay, so but the channel does still exist just for archive purposes. All your videos are still present. Well, that's good. That's good to hear.
And now, once again, I guess I'm letting a cat out of the bag. Now, I've not talked to Pindar, but I'm going to go ahead and file that appeal and get it back. Just to piss everyone off.
All right. So we can expect the return of the old channel, at least in some form.
Well, I'm not going to show it. I'll hide it.
Oh, okay.
But because I'm going to clean it up. Because one of the things that I did find out, you know, through experience, is that I did need to clean dated material as I went. And I've started doing that on this channel, especially with the lives. On my channel right now, I've got over 50,000 views privated. And it seems to be working better this way, keeping me the algorithm, and people are watching the more recent, more relevant lives.
Mm-hmm. Well,
so that policy of going back in my old ones, you know, what I consider out of date, it turned out that I think that's the right thing. Okay. It lowers my view count, but I really do think that it's helping my channel when my lives are too dated, you know, to hide those.
Okay. So this is a good topic in general. You've been on YouTube for several years now. You've been a viewer of YouTube for longer. So like what little tricks have you learned? You know, for anyone who wants to start their own channel, because you were talking about how like these chatting streams that you do are basically like dead weight on your channel, and that removing them has boosted your algorithm. Like, what little tricks have you learned that other things like that?
Now, one of the fun tricks that I've learned is like have extra phones, you know, crud phones laying around with your channel on them. And the reason is because like IP2 will spam your chat. We're using computers. But, you know, I can open a live stream. And then I can open a new one on my another phone. And then on the next phone, I can open another one. I can keep opening brand new live streams on every phone I've got. And once again, when they tried to spam my chat like that, I said, okay, I won't cover IP2. Fuck you. You just lost out on a creator covering shit you like. Then they tried to bring it over to a second stream, you know, trying to do it on the fly. It didn't work that well. But like I said, I opened up 3 streams. And I just sashayed everyone over to the stream that they couldn't spam. And that is how I get past the spammer bot.
Okay, interesting. So this is also a good time. Like, you have other channels as well. So where did, like, just a general topic, where did you come up with the idea for Verily Veronica?
Actually, Chat did. That was created by Chat. Now, at the time, Deity was attacking you and I. And he was telling everyone what homophobes we were. Remember all of that made up shit? That was during that. Now, it was getting to early October, and Halloween was coming. And I told everyone I would dress up as a girl for Halloween for a one-time thing. And chat wanted it to be more than a one-time thing. And that's when we created Verily Veronica in chat, and chat picked out the name Verily Veronica. Now, once again, when I get my other channel back, that live stream will be available, and everyone will be able to see that as a receipt.
Yes, that's the main thing I was hoping with your channel coming back, because I remember like some of our old stuff is in there as well.
Yeah.
I like to go back and watch those things sometimes, reminisce.
Well, the videos, other than the Amberlynn Reid ones, would still be fairly relevant because they would be arcs. Everybody else will show an arc of growth or arc of history, where Amberlynn Reid's just this around all over again. And that's the thing with Amber coverage. My old video from a year could have been a current video.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, she's just that useless.
And if any of the other people you've covered start acting up again, they get searched up. Your channel will come up.
Yep.
So,
and there was a lot of other people that I covered, minor characters, but we focused mainly on the problematic people, and as we saw when Luna Moon was wishing death upon the elderly, we fixed her wagon really well quick too.
Yes, she has essentially disappeared from the internet now.
Now we are going to have to go to the Boit for a little bit and kick some butt, but we will talk about that in a private meeting.
Yes. Now, one of your other channels, your other characters, Grimgolf the Dark Elf. Like, how did that happen?
Well, actually, Grimgolf started because, you see, I have a dark elf in my book, a female one. So now in my book timeline, that dark elf female would still be living in our day. So I decided to give her a husband.
Okay.
And that was Grimgolf. Basically, a no-account drunk.
And you have a strange effect you give him. Is that just a filter, or is there anything special behind that?
No, actually, well, that is a negative. It's just a negative image of me. But the thing is when you try to record a negative image, it washes out. So what I do is I do a trick. I will say this is the tablet. I will put it on negative, but I will take a phone hidden in one hand and record it. That's how I avoid washout.
Okay.
And that's why I can do the dark elf effect, because if I hit the button and tried to record in negative, it would wash the image out. And I have 2 minutes to record. So whatever bit I decide, I have to create and deliver within 2 minutes. Now, there is a program that will do the same thing. And I did try to use that recently. It worked great, by the way. But oh my God, it ate so much memory, I couldn't do YouTube.
Okay.
I ended up, after doing a few Grimgolf bits, I ended up having to wait for Cycle to get any space back to do anything with for a long time. And that's why I went back to doing it the old way. But if I get a computer, there is a program out there that I could do it. In fact, on the Grimgolf channel, there is a couple videos where I did that to lolcows. Like I turned Playmate Tessie into a dark elf. And I made her Girl Goth. Because once again, Grimgoth being a drunk, he likes to name things he can remember.
You hear my dog in the background.
It's like the cat is Cat Goth. His daughter is Girl Goth. Because once again, he drinks too much. And then we got Alfarius's mask over here. Summer, you're in my way. I need to grab a prop on.
Does Alfarius Kane have his own channel?
Well, the thing is he did originally. I was going to do political comedy, and YouTube hid it. And they would not let me do political comedy. And this really upset me. My channel only got 26 subscribers. 26 subscribers. Now, I am the least favorite character, and no one likes me. But I do not care. I am Alpha Arius Cade, Horseman of the Apocalypse, and I live for conflict. And he's also insane. Because I thought when I created the character, I thought, what is basic war? And I thought, well, the definition of the war also has been insanity. So that's where I decided that a horseman of the apocalypse that is war would also have to be totally insane. Because madness and war go together.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a part of the basis of his character. And this is why the character is insane. Because the concept of war in itself is insane.
Mm-hmm. Now, it says, Roger, will you ever start a channel or regular time bedtime stories, soft adult content?
Soft adult. Not on the YouTube.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, the adult content doesn't fly on YouTube.
Nope, the adult content doesn't. Now, I am writing stories for the Thanatos Magus channel. I went and bought paper and pen to start that with yesterday. And I bought some more game counters for my wargaming channel, and I started painting them, and it's going to be epic. I'm creating an undead army, and I've already created undead army rules when I play tested. Now, it's going to get 60 degrees here today, and it's sunny in Kentucky. So for a little while, I'm going to go out to the wargaming table where there is a game of galactic conquest.
Mm-hmm.
And she just sneezed in my mouth.
Oh. Real quick, what kind of pup do I have? I have a bully pit, Yorkie poo, and then 3 of their children. They're very strange-looking animals.
They're pretty.
Yes, I may do some shorts with my pets at some point because they're always doing funny stuff.
Well, YouTube is promoting shorts. You know, when I'm doing lazy days, you know, I've been putting up shorts and they get more views than my regular content sometimes. And I shake my head at it, but it does give me a lazy day on YouTube now and then. You know, if I really don't have much to do, I can just upload a couple of shorts and my channel thinks that I've done YouTube when I really skipped a day.
Mm. That's a nice little trick there.
Well, it's like this. I mean, look at this short. This is a short.
Now, let's see. You have a story time type channel, right? How did that one start?
Actually, that was my original YouTube goal. Yes. When I was going to start YouTube, I was just going to have that Thanatos Magus channel, and that's all I was ever going to do on YouTube. Now, of course, the therapist conned me into doing the Amberlynn Reid covering thing, and she eventually left Mindsight. She quit. During COVID, you see, Mindsight not only was giving me shit, they were being crappy to a lot of other people. So my therapist eventually started just referring her patients to other therapists.
Wow.
And then she left. And I told her she was going to leave before she did because she was a very moral person. And she was a very good Christian person.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't say anything bad about the woman at all.
And she was your best therapist, right?
Yes. Well, the only one that was worth it. I mean, literally. Other than that, all the rest would have just been a waste of time.
And yes, I do use Discord, DC. I'll put it in the chat. And no, don't worry. You can post as much as you want. Usually during my interviews, the only time people are chatting is if they're fighting, because I interview controversial people normally.
Yes. Now that's one thing that he does, and he's currently you will see him go out in YouTube and do this, talk in places where you might not think, because he's trying to get an interview. And currently there's a couple YouTubers that think he's simping for a Drastia.
Yes. I've apparently this person that I will that I recognize, actually know personally, maybe from the sound of her voice. We're gonna cover her at some point. She's trying to pit me against Adonis Paul, and I just like to publicly state I don't know Adonis Paul. We may have had words in passing in Suits of Discord, but I don't know Adonis Paul. I have nothing against the man. So, with that in mind, do you have any other channels you want to talk about? Because I want to talk about your book next.
Well, the funny thing is many times you ask me about channels, and half the time I can't even remember. Somebody complained the other day, and I realized I have 8 I upload on. One of them has all hidden content, but overall they're 8. And of course, then I made the chaos joke. 8 being a part of the number of chaos.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, got a lot of channels to say the least. I know you have a 40K one as well, somewhere.
Well, yeah. I uploaded on that yesterday for first time in forever. Okay. Talking about the Emperor of Mankind.
So, following that, like you've been, I've heard you talk about this book now for a little while. Like what's your book about? Would you say what's the
Well, premise? The thing is when I was living in the barn, I could get some books given to me now and then. Somebody gave me Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, and after I got done with that book, I threw it as far as I could, and I called it Formulaic Drivel. And then I said I could do better. Remember that one part of me that will talk to me? It said, well, can you do better? And I says, yes, I can. So I proved it. So I started while I was in the barn. I wrote everything that's wrote there while I was living in the barn with no power and no water and having seizures every day. Now, what I started with a concept. Now, Tolkien, he said he did not like the Arthurian legends. They were too French. It turns out that Tolkien hated the French. Mm-hmm. Where people talk about prejudice. Apparently, Tolkien was prejudiced against the French. And he said he wanted to make an English tale. This is what he told his friends. And it was relayed in a documentary. Now, what's true or not, this is just what Tolkien told his friends. Now, once again, we go back to Tolkien's origin, and he said on a term paper one day, for some reason I wrote, there was once a hobbit and he lived in a hole. And then Tolkien said, who is this hobbit? And why does he live in this hole? And that's how his entire premise started, was just that. So I too started by making an American tale. And where there once was a hobbit and lived in a hole, I started with once there was a great forest.
Okay.
And that was my premise. Now, sitting there for about 2 or 3 days, I thought, what did America contribute to literature? And oh my God, it's very little. I mean, very, very little did America contribute. But we did have a few interesting concepts that I used to make this an American tale. First, bad guys being good guys. That is American in origin. Now, the monster that is American in origin is zombies. Our entire culture, fascination with undead, that wasn't like that before the American culture. Zombies are American. They're as American as pizza.
Okay.
So, it had to be an undead apocalypse. Now, once again, another element of American is the tall tale. Like Paul Bunyan and, the 1800s, they would have the tall tale. So I had to have one character that resembled the tall tale. And that's Gorgoth. Now, Odin follows Gorgoth around now and then helping him. And it's not because he loves Gorgoth. It's because Odin has one goal always as a god, which is to avoid Ragnarok. Well, the axe that Gorgoth carries is the Axe of Winters. And for Ragnarok to happen, the bad guys need that axe. So Odin has manipulated Gorgoth into taking that axe, and about all of his kinsmen hunt Gorgoth to kill him. Now, Odin has given him certain gifts, like the boots of Uller. Uller was their god of the hunt, so it gives him giant leaping ability. Now, Thor also had a gauntlet and a belt of strength that would double his strength. Now, Odin has made Thor give Gorgoth his natural strength.
Okay.
And forced Thor to have to use his belt in his glove. So, that way Thor can't become twice as powerful. Now, this is the thing, though. If Thor was to ever need his strength back, that would actually leave Gorgoth completely at normal strength. Now, Gorgoth doesn't know this, and it's not popped up in my book, but that is one of the things that one day could lead to Gorgoth's death, is when he goes to rely on that super strength, and he finds out that it's not there. So Gorgoth is my tall tale. Now, another American facet was a Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's court. So I took a young girl, teenager from our time, and I sent her back into my fantasy world, which actually predates the dinosaur age.
Okay.
And it all is Earth.
This is very like Tolkien inspired type stuff then.
Yes.
Okay.
But those were my American elements. Once again, the bad guys having to save the world. Now, one of our bad guys was created by our bad guy and rebelled against him. That's a Mangrel. And he was made to be the undead's leader, but a living leader. Because you see, there's one problem with an undead army. If you have an undead leader and you have a holy something, you could quickly get rid of that undead leader. So my evil lich decided I have to make my own general. Otherwise, you get one ambitious priest and this whole thing could fall down around its ears. Now, the character Mangrel was the adopted son of the Lich who rebelled against him. Now, Mangrel is the partner to Gorgoth, and they are famous adventurers at this time. They're also like one of the most wanted people on the planet. But they need each other. Mangrel comes from a swamp. Gorgoth comes from the icy north. So they also are the odd couple because of that. That's another American invention, the odd couple in literature. One of them always says it's too hot, and one of them always thinks it's too cold. So once again, that is a source of contention amongst them. They both need each other because there's so many people that want to kill them both. So it forces them into a friendship. Now, they're also very competitive. Now, throughout most of their life before the books, they were dragon hunters. Now, Mangrel was made to be an assassin, a general. He's a thinker. He's a strategist. Gorgoth has an artifact level weapon and the strength of a god. So they made epic dragon hunters because your dragon thinks this is just two more people to destroy, and you find one of them can pick you up by the tail and throw you around the room. Now, they went through, and at the time of this, they're wealthy beyond their dreams, but they could never spend it all because there's too many people that want to kill them. Now, what they didn't know is my bad guy went around for about 80 years throughout their career, and they raised all of these dragons that they killed from the undead. And this is the motivation on why my bad guys want to save the world. Because the Lich has went around and resurrected about 150 undead dragons that they killed. Now, you can imagine if you were an undead dragon, you would want to kill the person that killed you.
Yes, I think that might be the plot of Skyrim, actually, where the dragon coming back.
So this is kind of their problem. This is why my bad guys are forced to save the world. Because if they don't, I mean, it would be ugly for them. Now,
Okay, so your
there's other
protagonist
people.
is a villain then.
Well, now Tolkien had the concept of there has to be several characters and one cannot be trusted. So I did something different. There are 12 characters and only one of them can be trusted. So I have 11 characters that are all pursuing their own agenda. And many times these agendas are going to rub up against each other in the wrong way, which of course will lead to conflict.
So this is a very dark fantasy style of Tolkien almost.
Well, it's very American.
Very American.
It's Tolkien inspired.
Tolkien inspired.
It's very American.
Yeah. But this definitely sounds a lot darker. So, how in terms of like the book, like how close would you say you're to like at least getting like the initial thing written before you have to go back through it and change things? Like how far is it along?
Oh, to the first draft, almost completely done. I just have to put out an ending, and then I have to do the rewrite for the beginning edit, and then it's done.
Okay.
But it's made to be a set of 3.
Okay. So
now I did decide that I'm going to write Grimgoth into it as a character. Okay. So when I do the rewrite, I am going to add Grimgoth as a bit character, and Grimgoth will appear in at least several chapters of the second book. Okay. And Grimgoth is a pirate.
So, in terms of getting this book like released, are you planning to be self-publishing? Are you gonna shop it around? What's your plans?
Well, my original plan was to write 3 and let them publish it after I die.
Oh,
that was my original plan, because once again, I don't have to rewrite it. Remember how when you submit a book and they read it and they like this, and this? When you're dead, you're not rewriting, are you?
Yeah, that also gives them the opportunity to change things. You got to be careful about that.
Well, the thing of the matter is, if I'm dead, I don't care. But in reality, I probably will publish it at some point in a decade.
Oh, in a decade.
Well, I got to finish the other 2. Okay. Because honestly, I'm not rewriting this. When I'm done, I can tell the publisher, whatever.
Okay.
Because everything in that book as it is there for a reason. So now, one thing that I realized writing this is a mistake that every writer makes. Many of my characters had history, small talk. All of your characters in all the fantasy books you ever read, many of them have known each other forever, but they never make small talk. It's always just like you just met them. But that's one thing my characters will do is small talk. Tell like stories on each other.
Things of that nature.
In that way, it also let me work in a few background elements, like how they carry their vast wealth. Because one of my gods is the chaos god. Because the Greeks, they considered chaos a god, but not like other gods. He was like a god without form. And that's actually where we get the word chaos from. And it wasn't worshipped, but it was kind of considered a god, but it was more like a force. Mm-hmm. And like I say, I have my own pantheon of gods, and one of them is the chaos god. And he actually factors into a lot of the characters' histories.
Mm-hmm. So your plan for this book series, you're going to write all 3 of them and then publish them all at the same time?
No, one at a time.
One at a time? Okay. But you said it's going to be a decade before we see this book, right?
Well, no, not the first one. The first one you'll probably hear on excerpts on YouTube before I publish, because once again, that'll be by the time I'm halfway through the second one.
Okay.
But you know, they're all planned out. Now, one thing that I did that no one else did ever, I don't tell you who the main character is. Remember, I said there's a dozen characters and only one of them can be trusted. I start this book and I do not tell you who the main character is.
Oh, okay. Yeah, a lot of things have been doing that. Like Game of Thrones has a fake main character. That's how it starts, and it was very effective.
Well, I started that in 2016, but I didn't give you a fake one. I just let you pick. Now, once again, by the end of the book, it will kind of be evident on who it's going to be.
Okay.
Now, the plot of this is there was once. Now, if you go to my Thanatos Magus channel, some of the background stories on that are background of this world. There was once an elf named Estelvarta, and she turned into Elven Hitler. She almost completely wiped out her own race. She also went mad, and she basically brought down 3 empires. Wow. So this would have been a couple centuries before my book. And her history actually relates into a lot of other histories. They created a kingdom in the forest they called the Dragon Kingdom. And when it fell, the civilizations around it fell. And the orcs killed all of the men, and the women went to the north and became the Amazon tribes. Now, Gorgoth's mother was a captured Amazon. So if it wasn't for Estelvarta and all of the things that she did, Gorgoth would not have ever lived.
Okay.
So that was one way that ties in. And also, one of my characters is her granddaughter. You know, I have an elven female, and she is the granddaughter of Estelvarta. Mm-hmm. And she has some of her gifts. Not all of them, but some of them. Now, once again, if you were the equivalent of Hitler's granddaughter, you know, there would be great prejudice against you. So my book starts out with this girl, Gothvira, is asking someone named Magan, who is a magic teacher, to teach her as her mother had asked. And the book starts with an argument because he won't teach her, despite that he promised to when she was born.
Okay.
And that's how my book starts.
An intuitive, yes, he is writing a book. We've been spending the last, I'd say, 15 minutes discussing the details. And now you said that would be you'd be fully done with the trilogy in about a decade. Do you have any idea of when we'll be seeing some excerpts on YouTube or a release for the first one?
Well, actually, I'll probably talk about that on my channel at some point. Because, I mean, Mangrel and Gorgoth, like I say, they're the odd couple, but they also do some stupid things, despite many times being smart. Now, Mangrel is not human. Now, one of the things about him, he will do very inhuman, evil things. But sometimes he's the voice of reason. You know, I did that in my book. Very rarely will the madman be the voice of reason. Now, I also did a curse. Now, I have a character, Maliki. Maliki is insane. Maliki is an assassin, but he was thrice cursed. He had a witch curse him 3 times, and he can no longer be an assassin because anybody going to hire an assassin that is thrice cursed? Now, him and my human that comes from our time that transpose, they're cursed together. Honey, I'm trying to talk. Now, the person the human, I named Mary Kate. She's a Catholic girl from Cincinnati. And when the moon wanes, she gets transported 120 million years to the past. And that psycho gets taken to our time. Now, they're attached at the genitals. Now, you see, a part of their curse, he has her girl parts, and she has his boy parts.
Okay.
And like I say, they're tied to the phase of the moon. And one of them will be back in the past for, the 14 days of the moon lunar cycle. And then when the moon's waxing, she'll go back to her regular time. But the pants thing, that stays. Now, I did that for an extra reason because, Gorgoth, despite the fact his mother was a slave, he tries to be the ultimate Viking, with all of the things it would entail. So I had to find a funny way of playing off a Viking proclivity because, once again, I can't have SA in my book. So I found a cute way to make a fool of Gorgoth, and that's why I did it.
Okay. So there was a method to your madness.
Yes.
Okay.
Like I said, it all fits together. It's why I said that, when some people's like, rewrite this, I'm like, no, it's all there for a reason. Shut up.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's one of the good things now is self-publishing has never been easier.
Well, I just did this to prove a point. In reality, I just did it to prove myself that I could do better than the Goblet of Fire. And I did.
Okay. That's a bold statement. There's a lot of Harry Potter fans out there.
Well, the Goblet of Fire, as a writer, most of that book was nothing more than her background fluff. Stuff that she had edited out, of Hogwarts, of other places. And I could tell that most of that book was basically just an outline with a lot of her old stuff that was going to go into other books filling it out.
Okay.
In reading that, I came to that conclusion. And that's why I threw the book. I'm not saying that a Harry Potter book couldn't be a good book, but I could tell that the Goblet of Fire, she must have had a deadline or something and kind of half-assed and then just threw it together mostly out of elements that were on hand.
No. I have not personally read those books, although I do know that J.K. Rowling's fan base has certainly turned on her.
Well, she got an $8 million advance for that book. Oh. And when I was starving in the barn, that upset me. I'm like, you got $8 million advance for this, and you put it together out of mostly your leftover fluff with basically a short story wrote into it.
So we've covered pretty much every major topic. Is there anything that we really need to cover before we go here? Because we're almost at 2.5 hours. It's been a good, solid interview.
Well, that was quick. Matter of fact, I'm surprised that my phone isn't dead. Usually dies about at 2.5 hours.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Well, yes, it has. And, well, there's the thing is for the future. But I think we'll leave that for a surprise.
Okay. And there's a good chance that we'll be doing another interview at some point. As you have a long story even before YouTube that should definitely be told. Well,
yeah, I mean, everything with me would have to be taken in chapters. And yes, and I guess this has just been, my background on my YouTube career, my YouTube bona fides.
Exactly.
But the interesting thing is let me think. It was September, October, November, December, January, February. I only watched YouTube 5 months before I became a creator.
Wow.
So that's the only other interesting fact I can think to add. Now, I do appreciate you having me today, and I wish I could have looked at chat. My apologies to everyone in chat, but I wanted to give this my full attention.
Yes, and I have been doing my best to keep track of chat, getting any questions. Now, if chat has any questions to ask, this would be the time. Now, this is it's open form, whatever you want to ask.
But you could. Oh, come over here, baby.
Now, as far as the future goes, I mean, you have your stable of people you're watching. Would you like to describe your favorite one without naming them, of course?
I don't have a favorite one.
Okay.
See, the thing is now a little bit surprising, but I really don't like watching lolcows. Now,
they're usually
I
boring for
I
all the
cover them, I make them understandable, but I'm here for the social aspect of YouTube.
intuitive
Like
one wants
this
to
cat,
know
she's
when
here
you
for
are,
social.
yeah. Intuitive one wants to know when you are starting the book. Now you've already started it and you're almost done with it. So when do
Oh
you think
yeah,
you'll start the second book?
I don't know. It kind of depends on getting into it because you see, in the second book, I pull a bait and switch. I
Mm,
change the villain. Yes, you will think that the undead are the villains. The undead are not the villains in the second book. It's all a bait and switch. Now, they're there, and some of them are a menace to be faced. So, it's not like they're going to just be sitting around. But in reality, the big bad guy of the second book is Mangrel. You remember the lizard guy?
mm-hmm.
Yes, in the second book, he turns out, see, in the first book, he gets a plan. You remember how Mangrel and Gorgoth, they have that argument over hot and cold? Well,
Mm-hmm.
my one character that can be trusted is a princess from a island country. And he plans on taking it over in the second book because he says to hell with this getting cold shit again. And he plans on assassinating someone. And he plans on setting another one of the characters up for the murder. As I mentioned, there are 12 characters, and only one of them can be trusted.
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to it. We have Bells, who was in here a little bit ago. She's also an author, and I always enjoy talking to authors about their creative process, and I think this has been very, very informative. So, with that being said, I do believe it is time for us to go. I'm sure Rochella is wanting to get back in there, and I'm sure I got to get my dogs out here soon.
It's just interesting. I just had that thought in the back of my head. She's out of heat, but if she's not, we'll know in about 2 months because there'll be kittens.
Oh, ooh.
No, she's
All
out of
right.
heat. She hasn't been asking to get in here. And I'm like, that's kind of odd. Now, she's out of heat, I'm sure. But, there's that one part of me that's like, she's being too quiet.
Hmm. Well, that being said, it was nice having you on, Roger, and you are always welcome on the channel.
Well,
I,
thank you for having me. And I'll go ahead and drop so you can do your exit. And everybody, thank you for listening to me and have a good night.
Good night. And yeah, that was very good. He has been a loyal friend to me since pretty much the beginning of YouTube. I suspect we'll have many adventures together in the future. So be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, as is tradition. And I will see you next time.